future is actually very easy to forecast. That we will be in a world of cryptocurrencies. All currencies will be cryptocurrencies.
Greetings all, praise King, Selassie. I want to make another video about shitcoin.
It's a fraud.
It just so happened to be the first video on the RasreapsRasrevoltsRasrebirth.
It ain't smoking.
So, why is it important? Why should people care? Shitcoin is a digital currency. It has no value.
Like all money?
Unless it is given value.
It is about crowd psychology.
By people.
It is about faith. It's about people thinking it's going to be worth something.
Through demand, just as any other currency.
It's sort of like a money.
Although, in the form of paper money, you have an actual note.
Sort of like an asset.
That you can hold.
It's sort of like gold.
Because of the cost to produce.
But the idea is there's only going to be so many of them. And so, somewhat like gold, this is scarce, that breeds a sense of value.
Of a digital currency, there's virtually no cost.
And especially the economists just seeing the value of having transactions with almost no transactions cost.
There is benefits to be had by the producers of the currency.
Part of the value of Bitcoin is in fact the fact that people don't understand it, which means that the winners can game the system.
Such as project design, where users of shitcoin contribute to a particular problem,
which is known as the blockchain, which
is basically a list of transactions that's shared between many different kinds of people on their computers rather than controlled by a central authority like a bank.
And so every single Bitcoin is represented on this ledger, which is known as the blockchain, which
is similar to how they use the Pokemon Go. The futurists knew that they could obtain input data from others to design the RFID grid.
Because it can do things like automatically execute contracts, it can organize data in interesting ways, it can make trades and exchange of information easier using the cryptocurrencies as a kind of tool.
So they turned it into a video game where people did all the work.
For a variety of reasons connected to this, but I think both sides of this get at the degree to which this is whether it works or not, it is a kind of revolutionary new technology.
Whereas if people would like to obtain the shitcoin, they can put in the work.
There's like this entire mini economy now.
People that really understand blockchain technology.
Running on helping major companies get in on blockchain technology.
But no matter what happens, blockchain isn't going anywhere.
This whole thing is the worst scheme.
It was an excellent summary. It's a very unique technology in that a computer program is kind of creating scarcity.
But these are people behind the scenes designing problems, mathematical based.
And it's run by somebody that monitors rules in a far more faithful manner.
That can be solved.
But it's also very expensive.
Great deal of time, human energy.
And the idea here is that you created an incentive for people to join the network.
So they can obtain this energy from others by promising them pretty much nothing.
A valuation. Now compare that to something like Bitcoin, where there's no fundamentals, there's no cash flows, and the disagreement is intense, where many people believe the value is fundamentally zero.
As time goes on and people adapt these currencies, the value of the goods that they will be purchasing will become increasingly inferior.
There are a whole bunch of complicated rules, how they're created, how they're moved around. One of the rules from the very beginning is that there would only ever be 21 million Bitcoin created. I mean, you can divide a Bitcoin into as many parts as you want.
And business folk know that this currency ain't worth shit. That's why it's called
Bitcoin, but this is important. Just because something's scarce doesn't mean that it has value.
They're not going to be willing to forfeit their assets for nothing.
And Bitcoin has been through a lot of these runs before in its 8-year history. None, I think, quite like this, but they often do come down.
However, they can obtain labor from the traders.
So you have this process that both gets people to get involved in Bitcoin and also gets people to keep the records for the whole thing.
Of the currency. Now, initially this currency was marketed towards the so-called non-dissenters.
That, I think, was the early promise of it, was that it would be an alternative for people who really didn't trust their government.
Sometimes called anarchists.
You know, you asked about the sort of libertarian anti-government aspect of it. You know, whether or not the people buying it have an anti-government bent, certainly I think one of the central attractions to this and what makes this so different than other investments you can make is that there's nobody in charge.
Obviously, there's a segment of the population, and not just in the United States, globally, doesn't buy in.
It is true what you say that initially.
As a result, we spend a good deal of time trying to get out.
So I think that this is a great idea.
Finding ways to survive without contributing.
To trade in illicit goods or for money laundering, because we know
If something's wrong, why would we support it?
And are we seeing a slackening off of that reputation of it being associated with criminality? Well, I suppose if something is being freely traded by ordinary people without a stain on their reputation, then it will get a veneer of...
Bitcoin itself has gotten so much attention, as well as the overall blockchain that it's built on is really starting to go mainstream.
The main thing that we need to take from this is a community-based and community-driven.
So-called cryptocurrencies, what they're being labeled.
And then all these other cryptocurrencies like Ether, Litecoin, they're also kind of in the same situation where we could see them go up.
To give people a sense that this currency is safe.
Secure. So the amount of computing power that is protecting the Bitcoin blockchain is enormous.
And the way that the list of transactions is updated is through these algorithms that all these computers do at once in order to keep it
Protected.
more or less hack-proof.
Unhackable, excuse me.
More or less.
And it's actually very hard to secure a Bitcoin. I mean,
One of the places where there's a lot of interest in Bitcoin, not surprisingly, is in Venezuela.
Going to be received by the rebel.
To be a very convenient way of moving money around and covering up illicit activity.
If the rebel believes that they're apart, separate.
and the fact that there are all of these computers around the world doing it means that there is no company or no government in charge.
An example of these kind of marketing techniques is Facebook. When Facebook was first designed, it was marketed towards college kids because the investors realized that this was like the hip group.
And the idea here is that you created an incentive for people to join the network and support the network.
An advantage to those looking to trade in the underground. People are like going, wow, there's an underground
That doesn't mean it's not still being used in the darker reaches of the web.
internet. Wow, it's a setup.
It's a system that exists with nobody in charge. A little bit.
So everything, all the activity on the internet is traceable.
But I think when you actually tease apart that argument, you find that this is the most transparent system the world has ever seen.
Bitcoin has these rules, the Bitcoin software that everybody around the world is running, and that sort of sets the basic parameters of the system. All these computers around the world are constantly updating, gathering up all the transactions that are coming in and keeping track of who has which Bitcoin. The records for which are kept by these computers around the world.
That makes everything more efficient. It makes everybody better off to have a system like that that's immediate.
And that was the idea behind that rule. And people have ended up in jail.
You know, the Babylon's saying, you know, there's some kind of machine they're building that's learning from itself, and it will be able to crack
Virtual cryptocurrency.
Crypt. And yet,
It's run by somebody that monitors rules in a far more faithful manner.
that man already has access.
And that literally anybody in the world can access it.
You can't tell us that the man doesn't have the access.
And that you have to recognize, whether you think governments are good or bad, when you have something that is available anywhere, that comes with a certain power.
The word scheme.
Bitcoin is backed by code. That is software.
By what?
By code.
That they have ever cooked up.
Of course, the software can be changed,
To modern day history. You hear me?
and the rules can be changed.
Yeah, I was going to ask him that.
Right. I mean, that's
who
always
enforces that.
that's always the natural next question.
The enemy is seeking your information. The enemy is trying to find some kind of fault in you.
Which is that these computers that are kind of racing to win Bitcoin are also serving as the accountants for the network. The dollar isn't backed by anything other than the government's promise to take it. Bitcoin, in a sense, isn't backed by anything other than this network. What it is backed by is this community of people who have come to believe in it.
But the enemy is behind the scenes, believing in the work that they do.
But one of the things you have to remember is that communities can lose faith in things as well.
And they have to sell this to those coming in.
Bitcoin mining is essentially the system that Bitcoins are distributed. On day one, when the Bitcoin software first sort of whirred to life and computers started joining in, there were no Bitcoins. Every 10 minutes or so, the rules of the software determined somebody would win a sort of contest to get some of those Bitcoins. And
This is who this person is. And then it boosts morale.
And I think that's the real risk. Is there something that leads people to lose faith?
What is determining the underlying value?
And if you know any members of their history, you know that we went through perhaps the most famous bubble of all time with tulips.
Because they control all the mechanisms involved in it. They control everything.
And the people running it want to maintain these rules. They got invested because they care about the system. They care about the sort of rules behind the system. It's a system that exists with nobody in charge. And the people running it.
They control the internet. They control those Bitcoins.
So you have to invest in computing equipment, specialized equipment, and power to actually do it.
Yeah, they come with a good scheme.
They got invested because they care about the system. They care about the sort of rules behind the system.
Oh yeah, you gotta figure out a mathematical equation, you know, when it gets hotter.
The best way to think about it is actually as a platform rather than a currency. I think that's the way that most people will probably end up using it, and I understand that that's even more confusing stated that way, but
So I think of it as algorithmic scarcity.
But ultimately, you're seeing a lot of big companies get serious about investing in blockchain developers. They're hiring blockchain consultants.
And they're parceled out very slowly and given to the computers that are helping to sort of maintain the network.
Yeah, what is Bitcoin backed by?
Right.
And on one hand, people want to say it's backed by nothing, but it's actually backed by something which is stronger than anything we've ever seen in a monetary system before. And it's a little abstract, but when you think about it, it makes sense. And it also gets back to this last question about gaming and rules and transparency.
That would be to show the enemy the way.
And the Federal Reserve and all other central banks will issue their own cryptocurrencies.
They already got machines that they're coming out with that are able to do that at machine rates.
To sort of maintain the network.
And it compounds.
And, one thing that computers are very good at is faithfully executing repeated rules in the exact same manner on an ongoing basis.
And that's really the central new element to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, is that it's a system that exists with nobody in charge. A little bit.
You never win. You gotta lose. I'm telling you, you're gonna get burned. And I'm angry.
So IMM must find a way to communicate the show, because the Christ sought to bless the enemy.
Because people fall for this every day.
And I can't actually say I understand exactly how it works, and I really didn't expect anything, but it's gone through the roof.
It ended up being far better than any of my other investments, my IRA or anything.
And the value of Bitcoin has only increased since then.
If you got in at any point in the past, you have done very well on your Bitcoin.
It hit a record high yesterday and was quoted on the Bitstamp exchange. That is really grabs your attention, doesn't it? That exchange there.
But since last summer, my investment has quadrupled.
And so you're pretty happy with it.
I'm always a skeptic. So I think that this is a great idea.
Bitcoin is hitting record highs.
Certainly today, a lot of those misfits have turned into millionaires or in some cases billionaires.
And history shows us that every monetary system that's ever been created eventually dies. Humans make mistakes. Somebody may be well-intentioned, maybe not, doesn't really matter. Sooner or later gets in charge and has the ability to change the system in a way to the public's detriment. And eventually that system dies and another one is born. Well, with Bitcoin, we're backed by code.
Obviously, Satoshi Nakamoto, whenever they came up with this idea, and it was because it could give more power.
And Satoshi refers to Satoshi Nakamoto, the mysterious anonymous creator of Bitcoin. And it's kind of the central thing that makes Bitcoin work. It's a little complicated when you get into the technical details of how you actually win those Bitcoins, but you can buy any bit of a Bitcoin. There are bits. That's another denomination of a Bitcoin, and so you don't just have to buy one Bitcoin.
So Bitcoin is actually the first system that we've had that really can preserve value. All other systems. Okay. Well.
Yeah. All right. Well, and in the next segment, we're going to get into how you can buy a Bitcoin, the exchanges that are getting set up, the apps that deal with Bitcoin trading. We just heard that part of sort of the reason Bitcoin is working the way it is because people don't understand it.
So on one hand, the question here is like, well, wait, it's a game and only a few people understand it.
And some are able to game it for their own advantage.
The code is written. The rules are readable, they're reviewable by anyone, but hold on.
Considering that there is nothing to back it up, there are no banks, no governments, no gold reserves.
If your Bitcoin is stolen from your Bitcoin exchange or your Bitcoin wallet, you're not getting it back.
You have to have a tangible good to back the currency.
As you're pointing out, most money is already digital. Most money that exists in our economy only exists on a computer. There's nothing backing it.
That's why it's already out of control.
And there's been so much speculation all year about what is Bitcoin going to do next.
This is a scheme.
So speculation to me is driven by the larger banks right now.
The Bitcoin up to now 700. Some people in China jumped in. Well, who can afford that in Africa?
And that's one of the main issues with Bitcoin. How do we think of the value?
All over the world, people can afford a $700 product.
Per Bitcoin unit, per full unit.
For a coin, on a screen.
But I think that's the thinking you hear from a lot of people.
Do you know what goes on inside of the Fed? I don't know what goes on inside of the Fed, but is that a trustworthy system? Now, the Fed is also run by humans.
And very vulnerable to hacking. So those are the kind of basic principles that have made Bitcoin work from the beginning.
No, it's complicated from beginning to end.
I think that's the thinking you hear from a lot of people. Now, of course, the software can be changed. And the rules can be changed.
There's like this entire mini economy now running on helping major companies get in on blockchain technology.
Gathering up all the transactions that are coming in and keeping track of who has which Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is backed by code. We've never had a monetary system that was that transparent before.
It's a system that exists with nobody in charge. A little bit.
It's run by somebody that monitors rules in a far more faithful manner.
I mean, you can divide a Bitcoin into as many parts as you want.
It's sort of like a money, sort of like an asset. It's sort of like gold, dollars, and things like that.
An incentive for people to join the network right now is the fact that right now it looks like a very good investment. So, and support the network.
I believe there's something more to Bitcoin.
What are we being told now?
There is a massive wealth transfer that's occurring.
A shitcoin revolution.
World that's cashless because all money is digital.
That is to an advantage to all the world.
That's correct. And when you look at the introduction of timing of different cryptocurrencies,
There is this movement of cryptocurrency.
And then what we do, we say, okay, you want to buy this little Bitcoin, we're going to put in $100.
So, what is the pitch? What are they telling us that people are going to gain? Open source code. Everyone can read it. You know, tech literacy.
Which anybody can read and audit. Now, most people aren't technologically savvy.
But they do not know the technical, or they're not technically savvy enough to really understand.
It really becomes a worthwhile system for that.
You know, this whole idea about you can read it. Did you try?
The brain is hanging out there on the internet in a completely unencrypted, plain text form.
I mean,
it's a combination of the open source software code.
working with the big Fortune 500 clients to help them identify where are their gaps in their current processes.
So you could actually build this as a system where people said, hey, it's open source code.
I understand that this cannot be modified,
which anybody can read and audit.
and therefore I trust it.
Because it's the most secure network.
I can take that computer code, I can make some changes, I can convince my friends to run this different code, and we'll
grasp the greatness that is at hand.
It's benefiting some few people.
Yes, I understand the premise of this technology.
There is a core group of developers responsible for the Bitcoin, technologically speaking.
And how they can be leveraged to update a whole host of different processes that are in place at existing businesses.
JP Morgan's actually borrowed a bunch of the code from the Zcash network in order to build Quorum, which is their blockchain product.
Then the underlying blockchain infrastructure is.
So it's already class structure built in.
With the lower fees and some are more secure. The Rockefeller family protection.
Like I said, they also include an activity tracker too.
The seed. Babylon watching. Oh, this person down in this coin. This person, they're already selling them out.
Or predisposed genetic risks
that are being looked at by various governments.
So it could be either a government could play that role, or it could be a private person.
Design is being structured right now to permit a wider access to information.
Is the decentralized nature of the information.
So that the oppressive classes are not alone in their attempt to find fault in the eye of man.
We'll be able to take the data and have more information.
Something that felt more transparent.
To facilitate government processes.
As we get more exposure to.
We can see it, so we trust this.
Many more other factors that we can assess.
Bitcoin from my phone to your phone, that's going to show up on the blockchain. And every other person in the world can see it.
The cryptocurrency can.
And one individual, one central party keeps a record and can always see what everybody does.
But there isn't a huge difference between using cash for a transaction where you're purchasing coffee, where you're not actually disclosing who you are and where you've gotten that money in order to exchange for that cup of coffee.
But I think I see what you're getting at. That it's the effort, the attempt is to try to create a more robust system where literally every single transaction is granularly tracked.
Because privacy matters. It matters to business, it matters to people, it matters to human dignity, and sure, it matters to criminals too. And that's why actually the advent of privacy protecting cryptocurrencies like Zcash has been very exciting for the banks as well.
Let's examine the shitcoin.
Because you can see Bitcoin's brain much more clearly than you can see the brain of the people at the very top.
The rich, who are funded by one of the Rockefeller foundations,
that have additional features in place to mask the identity of personas.
And securing that network.
If It could be a judge, or it could also be your friend.
The Rockefeller family, people are hearing about it.
And then because of that, you have sort of explosive increases.
Or a potential new revenue generation opportunity where one did not exist before.
It'll actually based on greed. Like, cryptocurrencies get in where they fit in, and so there are some that are made for
Major financial institutions, the federal government, and the relationship between them, as well as Wall Street.
There are other privacy-preserving blockchain networks that are in existence. The financial meltdown of our traditional financial ecosystem, there have been some parallels drawn between the two.
It certainly has led directly to this. I think some of this may have come out at some point. This has been an issue.
So there's certainly a lot happening behind the scenes.
As far as the supply being fixed, well, there's 1,400 of these currencies that exist.
And so once you get savvy to this cryptocurrency game, you look and you'll see that there are close to now 1,400 different cryptos and tokens out there.
Bitcoin can't have supply adjust to meet that demand.
A good thing, then, that this is fixed? That it's a scarce currency? I mean,
That's to some a feature, not a bug, because it means we don't have to worry about the monetary policy of the central issuer.
And widely accountable to more people.
and they can be divided into any set of denominations.
These new technologies are very experimental.
That allow you to convert crypto into fiat and
So, it's a magic show.
So that middleman is not there. So
The trick is you get everyone to maintain the cost.
create new benefits in terms of a cost reduction.
And all the world is going to adapt.
The first wave of adoption.
Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.
So now people have to buy the products.
Buy into and feel comfortable with.
They have to contribute and support the industry.
that we didn't have a say
Some
in.
people aren't paying it because they know it's wrong and that they're serving a false god.
Ever since the Great Recession, I do not trust Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
In that specific system.
And the reason why
Besides, what's going to stop those with all the wealth from buying all the currency?
Coming into the cryptocurrency space.
And it means we don't have to worry about the monetary policy of the central issuer.
Of the Bitmeister, an educational platform on financial technology and investment strategies. There's a lot I still have to learn about Bitcoin. We'll keep studying in just a minute. Bye-bye cryptocurrencies.